Drunkduckers, this is Ozone Ocean, and with me are Tantz, Serene, and Bean. Hello.
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 Hello. Okay, we're all here and we're talking on the Quackcast because this is Quackcast number 755, and we're talking about endings. Well, basically, what happens when you have an ending? Well, what happens when you've got like a piece of IP and an author has, famously been working on it and they're taking too long to finish it, so people say, let someone else take over to finish it because you're just too bloody slow. So that's what we're talking about. Or, anything where it's been ended by someone other than the original author. And I say, if the author dies, I would include that. So, but it's worse, as we said in our video cast, when the author is still alive and it's been taken off them. All right, but before we get into that, we've got to bring up the... Oh, no! Right then, so yes, we're talking about all that stuff that I was way more introducing everything in the beginning. Did I even say, I said Baines and Tantzarine, didn't I? I introduced you guys, I did. Yeah, alright.
Yeah.
So, okay. And, so now we've got to introduce the featured comic. Featured comic was a comic that I featured this week called Blighted the Odyssey. So I'll tell you about that now. Hello, I'm Nation. My feature for the week was Blighted the Odyssey. The good witch is dead. Long live the good witch. Young white-haired Odessa has lived by herself deep in the forest since her grandmother died alone in a little house they once shared together. But now, at 20 summers old, she's finally at the point where she can enter the room her grandmother sealed away for her till she was ready for it. In there, she is bound to find her destiny, so the runes have spoken. The art is full color with a slight manga influence. The story is a fantasy action-adventure with magic and mysticism, and that's also quite manga-influenced in style. This is a pleasant little comic, and it's fun to read, it's good to look at, it's an enjoyable little story. I think it's well worthy of a feature, and I hope you enjoy it. This is a comic by Alfali, and it's rated M for mature, so have a little read. That was Blighted the Odyssey, so I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you go and have a look at that and see why I recommended it, because I'm good at recommending good comics, so it's worth checking it out. Next up, we have the theme by Gun Wallace, and he's given us a musical theme to a little comic called Wings of the Era, which is a cool little comic. And, my theme, my little description for it is: welcome to the Star Chamber. Prepare to be judged by the super sci-fi scary arbiters with their laser eye attachments, but you escape into the underground passages and then out into the vast windswept toxic wasteland beyond, driving fast in your turbo-boosted future car to stay ahead of the cannibal mutants that hunt you out there after nightfall. Take it away, Gun Wallace, with Wings of the Era. the era. My little description had nothing to do with the comic, but everything to do with the music. And so I hope you like it, and maybe you can relate it to the comic. Gumwallis did a great job on that. Poor Gumwallis. He's sick. Wish him well. All right, guys. Now we're talking about endings. So this was something that Tantz came up with in a news post because she was disgusted. She was revolted to her very core about what was being done to good old George R.R. Martin and his fantastic The Story of Fire and Ice, or whatever it is, and of course that is the TV show A Game of Thrones. That really brought so many more people into that series. I mean, there were a lot of people that enjoyed the Fire and Ice thing, whatever it is. They loved it. But even more were brought in by the TV series. But he still hasn't finished writing them, you see, and he's taken forever to write them because he's an old dude now. And, you know, he's just taking his time because, I don't know, he's like super wealthy because he sold his show. You know, he produced it to a massively successful TV series. So, you know, I suppose he's got other things on his mind, and he's a bit slow at finishing stuff. So, but these people are like super angry, and they're going, "Oh my God, finish your story, finish your books, and if you can't do it, someone else should. Give it to someone else. Be fair, hand it off, and they can finish it." So, Tantz, you don't like this at all. You think that's a bad idea.
No, I don't. Although, and again, because I'm an author myself, and I have a trilogy, which is like just 3 books, that technically is finished, but I haven't released the 3rd book exactly because I don't like the way I forced myself to end it.
Oh.
And thankfully, I am like, it's not as it's when I actually released the books back in 2005 and 2006 and 7, they were adequately popular, and I had like fans asking when the 3rd book is gonna come out and stuff. Nobody was being kind of, you know, how dare you not release everything now? But the thing is that if you have not tried to actually write such a, like, undertake such a project, you may not realize that nobody wants to leave things unfinished. Nobody. The first person that wants to read how the story ends is the author. So the whole leaving something unfinished has reasons behind it. And if you force an author to complete the story, you are probably not going to get the quality that you were going to get if you let them do their thing.
Yeah, because they'll do it better.
The reason for that is exactly, and the reason for that is that when you don't finish a story, it's because something hasn't been answered yet. Something isn't ready to be written yet. Or something doesn't, you know, lock in perfectly the way you feel. Okay, now it feels perfect, and I can finish it. And that means that you are not going to give your characters the ending that the characters have earned, but rather a generic ending, or a similar ending, but not the ending that they would have created for themselves.
Or basically whatever ending this other author decides to give them.
Exactly.
Because like that Kenshin thing example, you know, they really wanted to do something tragic with like plague and crap, and that wouldn't have been what the author was trying to do.
No, and that was actually adding insult to injury, because when they did that, I think, like, I may be mistaken, but I don't think I am. that the manga was finished. The ending was there, and they just chose to write a completely different ending. That was the polar opposite of anything and everything there. And they more or less kept the endings for the other characters, but they completely destroyed the ending for the main character, that was Kenshin, and his wife.
That's a shame.
Kaoru. So, yeah, it's just, we're going to respect every other character, but if you specifically, Kenshin and Kaoru, you are going to go to the, down the bleeper. Because,
That's just bad.
So that, yeah, I don't really know what they were thinking. It makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. So, yeah.
That's evil.
Yeah. And just to finish what I was saying before, the way that an author understands their own character is very intimate and very unique, almost like a fingerprint. And the way any other author, no matter how accomplished and amazing they are, will understand those characters is going to be vastly different, because they are different people with different experiences and different things that they want to explore than the original author. So they are going to sort of steer the trajectory of the plot where they are interested more.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So, yeah.
A really good example of that was, this is a weird example. Like, if you guys have ever read Conan stories, and Conan is something where this has happened, because that was a wildly popular character, and it's been taken over by so many people afterwards. But originally, Robert E. Howard, this little guy he's a huge guy, living in a small town in Texas, wrote these as pulp stories back in the 30s. Late 20s, mainly in the 30s, he wrote these stories. And Conan is very much in his style. All his books are he's not books, he's writing books, he wrote stories. But all his stories are exactly the same kind of themes, the style. It's very characteristic of Robert. And Conan, there are a lot of stories about on this particular character. And one of these stories is Hidden City. And it's just a beautifully classic version of Conan. It's very short, it's tight, it's perfectly in the character. The character acts exactly the way you would think he would act, and it expresses all the themes that, a Conan story would normally express. It is a fantastic example of a Conan story. But the last story that Robert E. Howard ever wrote with Conan, apparently, was called Red Nails. And Red Nails is a total rehash of the Hidden City story. It's total rehash. Like, a lot of the same stuff happens, except it weirdly it has a female character as the lead, and he never wrote female characters. He never did. And it's from a female character's perspective. So, he did write female characters, but he never wrote from a female character's perspective. He just didn't do that. And so this is all written from her perspective, and it's following the same plot as Hidden City, but it's from this person's perspective, and it's really badly written all the way through. And it's much longer. He never wrote long stories. This is a long story, and it's really long. It's badly written because it doesn't follow any of the same themes, and it has these really pulpy things included, like this female character gets captured and she gets spanked or something. It has that kind of kitschy Wonder Woman stuff. That he just never ever wrote that kind of thing. And people love the story because it's it's a longer story by Robert E. Howard. Oh, and it's got a female character, and from a female perspective. But it's just, Like he not only didn't he write that, and he didn't write these kind of like sexual kind of torture kind of things. He just didn't do that, and so I suspect that was someone else had taken over, because he committed suicide in the 30s. He started writing these stories in the 30s, and then he committed suicide in the 30s, so he wasn't writing anymore. So I suspect what happens is some dickhead basically said, "Ha, well, we need another Conan story. Let's finish it. Let's finish like this. Let's do our own version." And that's what they did. So I do not think the Red Nails is a Robert E. Howard story. I think they took it over, and they pretended it was a Robert E. Howard story ever since. So yeah,
ghost writers exist. They are a thing. When the tone shifts so drastically, there are either of two things: either the author completely breaks with their previous work, for better or worse, or there's a ghostwriter. Either or. And you basically get a new author either way. I mean, if they completely pivot from who they are as a creator before, who they were before, then you essentially get a new author anyway. So, yeah, there's that.
Yeah. But it's regarded as a classic Robert E. Howard story, which is galling because it's so not, and it's not a good example of that character. So that's what it's not a Conan story. It's just not. But yeah.
I can imagine. I mean, I have never really read Conan stories. I have only seen movies. And I like those movies, for sure.
Oh, they're fun. Yeah, they're cool. The stories have a particular style, so they're written by a guy living in Texas in the 30s.
Yeah, it's you can tell, and that's fine. I mean, it's a presentation of those kinds of guys. But and you know what? Like, I can understand there is a way to carry the torch from an original author and be another author that carries the torch of writing these same characters, which has been done in superhero stories and I don't know, reimaginings of previous stories, especially through film and stuff. Yeah, absolutely. But it has to be, I don't know how to say it, but it has to be done in a specific context that isn't this entitled twat that cannot wait and just wants to swap authors and to just get a quick fix or a wrap up, no matter what it is.
Exactly. Let's be sympathetic. Baines, you've got weirdness coming on our microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I'm not even talking, so it's a different kind of weirdness.
Yeah. It's like tearing sounds and strange. It's possessed by a ghost, I think. We're getting EM.
I'll move the laptop to another room, but then I'll have a delay. So I apologize now in advance of the delay.
It works right now. Right now it is very clean.
Oh, I'm standing in a hallway, so that's not
going to work. Oh, God. Okay.
Okay, we'll go back over here.
It's obviously possessed by ghosts.
Could be. Any better?
It's okay at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was going to say, it happens on TV shows too, like longer running ones especially, where the writing staff will change, or at least the showrunner will change. And, people at the top will change. And permission to go in a different direction mid-series or something.
Yeah, and it is forcible too. Like they kick out the person who basically owns it, who started the idea, and then they just replace them with other people. You know, exactly the same sort of way with the books with George R. R. Martin. So Community was a good example. They got rid of the guy behind it, and the series changed dramatically, and people just didn't like it. And then they brought him back in for the last part of it, and it changed again. So, you know, that happens. And I think they did the same thing with whatchamacallit, Rick and Morty? I don't know. Maybe there's a voice actor they got rid of. I don't know what's happening with that. I stopped watching it.
Yeah, he's the creator of the show and the voices. I don't know exactly what happened either.
Really? Oh. So the IP is so valuable to them that they just don't care about him. So they get rid of him and they keep going with it regardless. Interesting. Because, I mean, I think he did some impropriety or something really bad. I don't know. I don't care.
I think something similar happened with the IP of The Last Airbender. I don't know exactly when or in which iteration of the IP happened, but the showrunners for the original The Last Airbender, that was like the stellar, biggest success, and remains the undefeated stellar success. Basically had to quit in the production of one of the other series. I just don't remember which one. I'm not sure if it was the live action Last Airbender or Legend of Korra, one of those. And they had to quit due to creative freaking differences. And it's like, you have creative differences with the creators of the show.
Yeah, the last people you should have creative differences with.
Exactly, and it went as you would expect after that, like after they quit. It was basically the beginning of the end for the particular series. I just don't remember which one it was. So yeah.
Sure, they had a couple of different series. Well, I mean, we can even think about the example of that. We always bring up our favorite example, Star Wars, which is quite interesting. So, of course, you know, they did the original movies; they were popular. Blah blah blah. Then Lucas goes and writes the terrible prequels many years later. They're roundly hated because they're shit. Then he did basically greenlit the Clone Wars cartoons, which rehabilitated those terrible movies for a new generation, because kids grew up watching those Clone Wars cartoons, and they deliberately rehabilitate those films. And then there's enough, interest. He sells the franchise on to Disney, I think, and then they did their own sequel trilogy, which is roundly sort of dismissed because it doesn't follow, the kind of the themes that he was doing. And yeah, it's basically...
Yeah, I think, you hear that he even gave them outlines for the next trilogy. Not that they were obligated to use them. George Lucas made out a lot better than most ousted creators. Like $4 billion or whatever. He sold it. It was his own choice to sell it. But
wow.
Yeah, they deliberately went a different way that he wanted to go.
I think, you know what, I think that the biggest problem with the Disney trilogy of Star Wars is that they didn't stick with one showrunner that has one vision about what they want to do, because the whole nature, I would venture to say, of Star Wars is that you can go rampant if you want within this setting, if you respect certain principles. But beyond that, it doesn't even need to be a Skywalker story. You can basically tell any story within this setting.
Hmm.
Or even if you want to do a Skywalker saga with, newer generation of Skywalkers and whatever else is entangled with them, you would need, it would need to be a consistent plot.
Yeah.
And they didn't have that because everybody was sabotaging everybody else. These three movies. And that was the biggest issue. Like I would be a lot more open in a James Gunn trilogy. Like let him do the thing start to finish than this weird mash-up Frankenstein monster of a trilogy, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, assuming that you are in an IP or a setting or whatever where you can, it is not locked in already with a specific plot, specific characters that have already, run 2/3 of a plot in a specific way. You can go pretty much rampant, assuming that you keep certain things consistent, which they didn't do. And I think that was the biggest issue. Like, not the irreverence of James Gunn or whatever. It was more that everybody destroyed everybody else's plot. And yeah, it's like,
it could have been done better.
Oh, you are making, exactly. And it was like, oh, you are making a cake. Let me replace sugar with salt.
Yeah,
that's
pretty much. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no issues with the characters or anything like that. It's just the writing. So it's not that Ray is bad or anything like that. And whatever. It's just that the whole conception of the writing as a plot was crap. Or basically it got worse and worse. Because like you say, there's no consistency. There's too many new things. It breaks its own logic, and it's just classical bad writing mistakes by someone who's not really invested in the world they're writing about in an intelligent way. It's basically a fantasy sci-fi written by someone who doesn't really understand fantasy sci-fi. I think that's the best way I can put it. Because to do fantasy sci-fi, you have to be consistent within your world. Because if you're not consistent, then the whole fantasy stuff that you set up will break the suspension of disbelief. There's this moron idea promoted by idiots. They say, "Oh, but it's fantasy, so whatever happens happens." No, you bloody idiot. That doesn't make sense. Fantasy only works if there's a consistency to it. Then you can suspend disbelief.
Exactly.
If the consistency isn't there, then you can't suspend disbelief, and it becomes just moronic. It becomes just a dream. It becomes incoherent. So you have to maintain it, and that's what the Star Wars is a great example of that. Just a perfect example of not maintaining that consistency. But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about endings.
Yeah, but it really, like, an ending, I think, is the icing and the cherry on top. So if you have a bad cake underneath, no matter how good the ending is, it's not going to help much. I mean, maybe it's going to make it a little better, but it's not going to be a good cake. So, yeah, someone, you would need two elements: someone that understands the cake underneath, like which flavors are there, to get the proper icing, and someone that also understands how to finish up a cake. And I don't know why I'm doing all these culinary analogies, but yeah.
Let the record show, Tantz is hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am a little hungry. Not eating.
She's gagging for cake. We need to make it
Why
one
not? Why
stat
not?
fast. Deliver a cake to Tantz.
But to go back to the whole, let the author that created something end it. Yeah, you might have an author that ends it badly or gives it an ending that you don't like or whatever. But it's still, I would still say that I am glad that the author that started something finished it, because that gives you the full experience of what the vision was that this author had, whether you like it or not. And then if you like, you can, reimagine. That's what fan fiction is for. But don't call it the original story. It's a fan fiction. It's fine.
It's true.
Everybody loves fan fiction.
Like, say, with my example of, say, Conan. So, very popular pulp fiction stories back in the 1930s. That's probably what drove some idiot publisher to fake that Red Nails as being a pure Robert E. Howard story, which is obviously not. And but after he died, then they had people actually writing stories. Let's see, there was Elsbrug de Camp and Lynn Carter. I think they were the two main authors who were doing Conan stories. And originally what they did, I think Lynn Carter did, I'm not sure, was because basically Robert E. Howard did a whole bunch of these stories in kind of similar themes with many different characters, across like eons, from before recorded history all the way to like detective fiction in the 1930s. So he wrote characters all throughout history, but all sharing the same theme. So I think what Lynn Carter did was he repurposed those stories and just turned them all into Conan stories. So it could have been a detective story. It could have been a story about, some person in America during the founding of the Americas, or it could have been about Krull the Conqueror, who was in the Atlantean period, and he turned them all into Conan stories, which was a bit crap because you're taking the author's original work and repurposing it. So, and then he's adding his own stuff and pretending it is, original Conan stories. So that was a bit crap. I think that was Lynn Carter. But then later on, Elsbrug Camp, I think, took it over and then basically did it, Conan in his own style and saying it was Elsbrug de Camp. And then later on, you have other authors, taking on, and, the author's name is written, so this is a Conan story by a different author. And it has a different character because it's a different author, and it's fine, and people liked it. And then later on, of course, there's the comics and all that kind of stuff doing their own thing.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that there is something very, very charming in having other authors write within the setting that you created, if you were, under the assumption that they are exactly very clear that this is a story by XYZ within this setting, with this character, blah, blah. Absolutely amazing. But this whole poaching, in a sense, of the original work, whether it is like high quality, low quality, I don't care. I think that in general shouldn't be done. Exactly because it dilutes who the original author was, in a sense. And I want to give an example of like Greek mythology, and you have one of the biggest sources that we have for Greek mythology, aside the original, Greeks, is freaking Ovid. And Ovid is like, it's not that he didn't write nice stories. It's that he wrote these stories as if they were the quote-unquote canon, in the sense that
Yes.
this is the story of Medusa, and that's a douchebag, historical douchebag, because he presents something as true where it is not, completely warping what the original culture had created,
Yeah.
giving a completely different idea. Whereas it would have been just as amazing, awesome, this is Ovid's version of Medusa, like myth,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. He didn't just, work Medusa. He worked pretty much everything,
And his own style. Like probably with Roman,
Yeah.
because he was Roman. So he has their kind of myths as well, their versions of it. Which is quite
well,
odd.
you know what he did? He used the Greek myths to basically do a run political commentary against the emperor, the Roman emperor at the time. I don't remember who it was exactly, but that he used that, and basically every myth had analogies that were relevant at the time for whatever current event he wanted to criticize and stuff, and it would make sense to readers of the time a lot more than it does to us. But he had this very entitled imperialist approach of, since I said this, I told the story, so now that's the story that is the real thing, and that represents a lot what the original culture intended and what that means for the original culture. And also, it takes away the charm of what the original story was. Like Medusa was not a girl that was transformed into this, snake-haired monster. She was born monster. That was the whole point.
Yeah, she was always
that was who she was.
Yeah, I was revolted by that.
No, there was no... Yeah.
Like I had read on, of course, these things come out into social media and people going, oh, you think Medusa's a horrible monster? Well, it's a story of abuse because she was like a temple priestess and then some god wanted to have sex with her and she wouldn't let him or something like that. Or she did have sex with this god and it was like sort of semi-forced and then she was punished for it. Like victim blaming, punished and turned into a monster because she wasn't pure anymore. Oh my god. And that's not what Medusa's about at all. For God's sake. No, she wasn't punished.
Exactly.
She wasn't a pure little...
Thank you.
Oh my god. It's like, and that's only Ovid has that. That's from him. All before, she was a super powerful character in her own right. And she was born that way, but she has sisters. They were all born that way. It's like two other sisters.
Exactly.
For God's sake.
Exactly.
And there's
she
so
was the
many...
only...
Oh God.
Exactly. And she was the only mortal sister of the three.
Yeah.
Or four, depending on who you ask.
But there's so many different sources for that too. It's not just one source. There's like multiple sources for that story. And Ovid is the only source for his version. And you can't... And it's like written hundreds of years later.
Because and basically Ovid is fan fiction. He wrote a story based on those characters, but he completely, he breaks from what the mythology was, and consider that at the time that was a religion. It was not just a mythology that nobody observes anymore.
Completely did
it
a
was
new
a religion.
thing
It was
from whole cloth. And you might think, but maybe Ovid was trying to base it in a kind of reality. No, he wasn't even basing it in a kind of reality because earlier Greek authors had already thought about a reality for their character, and they based her on they were saying, maybe Medusa was actually like the head of a tribe that was lost a battle or something like that. So they'd already done that.
Yeah.
So Ovid just created this idea of her being an innocent maiden in a temple from nothing. So,
exactly.
Sorry,
And
Tantz.
imagine, no, you're absolutely right. And imagine the significance of that, in that at the time it was a very valid and living religion. So it would be the equivalent of someone writing fan fiction with the Bible and completely changing who the Virgin Mary was, or who Jesus is, or what the adventures of the apostles are, and like warping everything completely and saying this is now what exactly this is the reality of it now because I said it.
Exactly.
And the sheer entitlement of this guy just because he was a freaking Roman, because that's really all it was about. And I'm not at all sorry for him for getting exiled anyway.
Prick. So he's the Kathleen Kennedy of the Roman period.
Yeah, exactly.
Perhaps much worse.
Worse than Kathleen Kennedy. At least, I mean, I don't know, maybe because, I mean, there are people that are worshipping Jedi, the Force or whatever, but there are a lot less in percentage, a lot fewer than actual religions. So, there you have it.
True. Similes, I know it's like not really like directly related, but it's like there's bands you really love and then they lose like a lead singer or something, like they lose a key player who is like so influential, and then they have to basically restart with a new lead singer, and you think it's just not the same band anymore. Oh my god, it's just not the same feel. It just and sometimes that is even forced, by the producers or whatever, who the record company. They say, okay, no, we don't want this person anymore, we have to get a new guitarist or lead singer, and they force them to change, or they force them to keep going after their lead singer has left or died or whatever, and so they have to get someone else, and it changes the character. So it is kind of related. Like, how do you feel when that happens?
I usually approach it in the before and after era, and it is what it is. There are some bands that make it work really well.
AC/DC worked really well.
Yeah, exactly. Some others, like for example, take Nightwish. Nightwish, I think, changed their lead.
Baines' stuff is going weird again.
So they changed their lead singer, and the before singer is amazing, and the after singer is also amazing. They are different. The band's character hasn't changed, but they have embraced that there is the lead singer's voice is different, and they have respected that. So that makes it easy to say, the era of the previous singer, the era of the later singer, we like both. Okay. If that makes sense. If they don't do that though, then they might a band then it might lose personality, like who they were.
I mean, yeah, so that's what typically happens when you get a new singer and stuff like that, and they do that whole era stuff. Van Halen is famous for that. With they started with David Lee Roth, it was awesome, and then they got Eddie Hager, I think. Eddie Hager? No, it's not Eddie Hager. It's someone Hager. I don't know his first name. Can't remember it. They got Hager, and then they got some other person, and Sammy Hagar. Thank you, Baines. They got Sammy Hagar, then they had the guy from Extreme, and then they went back to David Lee Roth, and then basically they didn't really work anymore. But they had distinct versions. Like, I think the biggest failure of that kind of thing was Queen, because they had the amazing Freddie Mercury, who was just so good. Queen was just such a perfect band, and then of course he died of AIDS in like 1991 or something. 92. Tragic ending. And so basically Queen was finished, but I think in the 2000s sometime they got some singer from like one of these terrible crappy piece of like ass TV shows like You're the Voice or America's Got Talent or Britain's Got Talent or something. They got one of these stupid people to be a singer from that, and I just think, oh my God, that's just the worst thing ever. You go from this super
and
talented
also like trying to
God to that.
Exactly. And then it's like trying to fill shoes that large. No. Everyone's going to compare you to Freddie. There's no way that that's going to work.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I feel sometimes when they remake certain movies. Like, for example, if you were going to remake, I don't know, Singing in the Rain. No, you don't do that, because everyone is going to compare you to the original, and you're going to lose. Unless you do something that completely makes it its own thing, you're going to lose. Because some things are just unique lightnings in bottles, and you cannot do that again. It's done. Humanity is all the better for it that it exists. Move on. You know.
They're gonna do Rambo again.
Oh, really?
Remaking Rambo. That was a good film. The first film is really good.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be remade.
Why would they? It would be like remaking Terminator. Like, why would you do that? Don't do that.
Like the thing, I think Patton Oswalt. He's a comedian, and there's good things and bad things about it. But one of the good things he says was, why don't they reboot something bad that did like a flop, something that was meant to be good, turned out crap, and they reboot that. Try and do a better version. Try and do the version that it should have been. That's what you should do reboots of.
Exactly.
Well, like Ocean's 11, they did that. One of the rare times.
Oh, really? Do you reckon that? Like,
yeah, it was apparently a really bad movie with Frank Sinatra and people way back when.
It's not bad, though. I mean, I've seen the original, and I quite liked it. The remake is just as good.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
The remake is good. The original is pretty good as well. I don't know.
No,
okay. I've never seen it, so I shouldn't have been.
Another remake that is pretty good, with the original also being pretty good, and not really comparable, is the Italian Job.
I haven't seen the remake. I love the original.
It is really fun.
But yeah, I don't know about the remake.
So the good thing about it, at least in my opinion, is
it starred Jude Law, I think.
I haven't seen it in ages, but I think it is Jude Law. What it does is that it pivots from the focuses of the original, and it gives you a whole different movie that is an homage to the previous one, but it is its own thing. So they don't do that, oh, we're going to do better than the original. It's just that we are doing a riff on this. that we already like. Like you can tell that they like the original movie and they created something just as fun.
You know what was really bad in this?
Different, but
So Baines brings up Ocean's
which one?
11. Ocean's 11, the original was, I mean, it was really, really good film. The remake was really good. Ocean's 8. So that was a version that they did with.
God.
They said, okay, we're gonna do a nice, like a reimagining, just with all female characters, and think, yeah, sure, this is great. And these are great actors in this version, Ocean's 8. I love them all. The performances were good, but the story just falls apart at the end because, like, basically the whole plot of the Ocean's films, at least the original, was that, you know, there's this amazing, elaborate heist movie, and then it all fails at the end. And then basically they had the experience of the heist, which was really cool, but they don't win. And that's where the story is. That's why it's so cool. But in this version, they all win massively, and everything works like super successful, and it just doesn't have the right feeling. It just feels, oh my god, you're treating women like you're trying to be like a female positive thing, but you're treating women like children. Like, oh no, we can't make them lose. We can't give them a bad ending because they're girls. So, but that's a bad thing because you're not treating them like human beings. You're treating them like little children who need to be protected.
Yeah, and it's not only that. It's like they are, each one of them is a stereotype, which it's not necessarily bad. I mean, stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason, but it's treated in a stereotypical way. You treat the stereotype stereotypically,
yeah,
as a creator, and it doesn't work very well. And I saw, like, I must have, like, 10 years ago or something, another heist movie that was very much in the style of Ocean's 11, that it was an Indian movie.
Oh.
I think it was called the Happy New Year or something like that. And it's like this gigantic heist that is also, it's a bit like a cross between Ocean's 11 and the Italian Job, in that it is a heist movie that it is also a revenge film. And they do their own thing. They follow the plot points, but it's a completely different film in the Indian style. And it works so well. It works so well. And, you know, the heist team has a woman in it. And the woman does her own things. She has her strengths and her weaknesses, just like everybody else. And she works so well with them because she's the one that makes them gel in weird ways that you wouldn't expect. I highly recommend the movie. It is 3 hours long, as all Indian feature films are. It even has like an inbuilt intermission card. Like, this is where you should take a break.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend it because it is so good. It is so good because it uses its stereotypes in a novel way, and they do not try to redo things in ways that aren't true to who they are. And I like that. I really like that. So, yeah.
Well, I think one of the main things we're bringing away from here is that it's fine to continue the legacy of something as long as you put some kind of like title card in between, you know, like you put like a border break. You're not saying, yeah, this is exactly the same thing. Like you have to have something built in to say, no, it's not the same thing, but it's giving you, you know, a similar feel or sort of based on it. It's, you know, like when you change the singer of a band, something like that. It's a different era. It's not, you know, the same thing. Because as audience members, you're going to look at it and think, it doesn't make sense. I don't get it. It's just, it's crap now because I expect it to be the same and it's not the same. So this is shit. So that's an important distinction.
And And for the love of God, don't take it from the original author when the original author is not ready to give it to others. Like, don't do that. That is tearing the brain child from the brain father or mother or parent. So don't do that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you guys ever seen the documentary called Lost Soul about the making of the Island of Dr. Moreau movie?
Oh, no. I've heard about that tragic process. Tell us more. We've got 4 minutes.
Really sort of, okay, a disastrous production, kind of famous flop. And it was like the lifelong dream of this filmmaker, Richard Stanley, to make the Island of Dr. Moreau. I don't remember if the original book has another title.
It has the same title, I think.
It does? Okay, so he always wanted to make this movie. So I guess this is a remake just to begin with. But in the process of the movie, he was fired, squeezed out, and they brought in another director. And it was then, it was just a big disaster. The movie Tombstone, similar. The guy who had the vision for that movie and wrote the script. The script, which brought in an incredible cast. Everyone wanted to be in this movie because the script was so good. But this guy was supposed to direct it, and he was fired.
Because that turned out
those
well.
Those are some big ones. We're in a single work. This happened. It turned out pretty well. Yeah, it's got issues, but it turned out in some ways really, really good.
Yeah, but the Island of Dr. Moreau sort of just fell into a hole that no one really cares about. Like,
yeah, it's kind of forgotten. Yeah.
Didn't it star like what's his name?
Marlon Brando?
Yeah, there you go, Brains. Thank you for being the mind reader you are. Yeah, famously Marlon Brando.
He's got the little 3 foot tall or 2 foot tall guy beside him. The basis for Mini Me in Austin Powers.
What, like it's like the Fantasy Island guy. You're just making it up.
He's like the world's smallest. No, it's true. True.
Like, yeah. I know the guy. I can't remember his name, though. It's not Lars von Trier, but it sounds like that. Lars von Trier is a very big man.
There's rumors, just before we end here, that Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick's last movie, was completed after he died. But I don't know. That's never been established.
No, that's true. Steven Spielberg completed it. That's not a rumor.
I thought that was...
That's true.
Oh, I thought that was just kind of gossip. That's the way I heard it.
That's true. Okay.
I thought the movie AI.
Okay.
Oh.
Yes, AI is the same. Okay, so thank you very much for being part of listening to Quackcast number... what's the number? 755. I've been Ozone, and we've had Tantz and Baines with us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.